to start out with, I want to know from you both what, comes from Thomas Hardy's source material, obviously. What about that material spoke to you on an emotional level and made you want to make this film?
Well, I read Thomas Hardy's books when I was a teenager, and I think, often things you read when you're that age sort of stay with you, and they kind of, seem real close to you. And I'd done a film of his last novel, Judy the Obscure, before, and I was in India and thought, actually, a lot of the things he talks about in his books are kind of happening now in India, because he's talking about kind of people who get sort of caught between the kind of modern world and the old world. People who come from kind of rural, stable communities, and are suddenly in a world which is becoming sort of modernized through industrialization and urbanization and education and so on. So it seemed like the world that he was talking about was the kind of world you get in India now.
Yeah, and I guess for me it was just, exploring the complexities of human relationships. I think that was going to be something, different to what I've done before. So I was very interested in doing that on this project.
Tell me about those relationships. It's kind of a doomed romance. What about this particular relationship resonated for you, Freida?
Yeah, exactly the kind of relationship I want to have. No, I think she's very different from me, and her actions are really the driving force behind her actions are also, her situation. So whether it's a family situation or, her economic situation, or also the fact that she's really in love with this man, but really coming from a different class of society, a much lower class of society, she almost does not know how this relationship could even actually happen and take off, So it's kind of, I guess in her head, she almost doesn't believe that this could happen to her. But I believe she truly does love him, and wants to have a relationship with him. And I guess just the fact that she has hope, that resonated with me. The fact that she is, in her own way, persistent about trying to make this work, one way or the other. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for her.
Well, it's interesting to me, the approach of this film, because I've heard that there wasn't necessarily a formal script, but you guys were working more from a treatment. Does that kind of, as an actress and as a director, does that force you to be in the moment?
Yeah, I guess working with Michael, you have to be in the moment. You never know if he's going to catch you unawares. All of a sudden you're sitting, in a bus and you think you're just traveling to next location, but no, wait, you're filming. So you have to constantly be active, and that's amazing, because sometimes on the way to location, or when you're going to shoot the next scene, there are so many things that happen, and you're basically capturing life when you are being that open and flexible to working every minute of the day, I could say so. But it was great, and I made it kind of very clear that we did have a treatment, which is what helped us as actors, to know that this was our guiding material, and this is how we were going to go ahead.
Well, Michael, does it feel like with that approach that you're walking a kind of high wire?
I think in the case of a film like Trishna, I think one thing is the relationship between Freida and Liz. It's not really about what they say to each other. I think it's true in most relationships, but certainly in the case of Jay and Trishna, that they come from different worlds. The communication, is not about how they express their thoughts and so on. So it kind of forces you to try and think about, well, how would they be in the moment? How would they, what is the relationship? What's happening? And then in the rest of the kind of film, it's a question of trying to capture sort of a real situation. I try and work as observationally as possible. So the rest of the film is trying to take our characters into a real place, whether it's the hotel or the hospital or the family, and not disturb that place and try and capture what that's like. Because it's not, I don't really have a kind of like the hotel must be like this, or the hospital must be like this, or the family must be like this. It's a question of, well, what is it like, and how can we capture that in the film? So, but I think for me, working out a script or working out a sort of a full dialogue script is kind of more enjoyable as well, because you never just shoot the script. I just finished a film where it had a very long script, and most of the day you're sort of shooting the script. In a way, you're not questioning is it the right thing to be filming? You know, is this the right way of conveying what you want to convey in the scene? It's just like that's the dialogue in the script, and you end up, if you're not careful, okay, well that's the dialogue, let's just do it. And even if it's not quite working, you're sort of finding ways that make it work, rather than asking yourself, is actually this the right thing to be saying? Maybe they shouldn't be saying that. Maybe you don't need to say anything at all. Maybe there's another way of showing something. It certainly makes it more enjoyable because every day you're kind of thinking about what you can get. You know, and can you find something that you keep finding enough little moments that day that will sort of be interesting enough to kind of keep in the film. You don't have that kind of feeling like, okay, I've got 4 pages to shoot, so how do I shoot it?
Well, another aspect of it, you combine professional actors with non-actors, and I'm wondering if that's a particular challenge and what you both see as the benefit of that dynamic.
I'm sure it's a challenge for actors, but I mean, from my point of view, director, I like that from now on a lot of films, and I like the idea. In a sense, it's like the implementation. I like the idea that the actors are having to actually relate to kind of things going on around them that are not totally controlled. So, same with the family, Trishna's family. That family was a family. The dad was the Jeep driver. It's actually his Jeep used in the film. That's their house. They go to the school where. That we go to in the film. And so you have a kind of real world, and you have to kind of think, well, okay, how would Trishna really behave? It's not just, okay, the script says I do this. There's all these kids running around, and the grandparents are there, and the parents are there, and the uncles are there, and it's like, how would it really be to be Trishna, and therefore how would she behave? I'm sure it gives a lot of hassles to the actors.
You know what? It is more challenging to work with non-professional actors because they don't really understand about, not looking at the camera when there's a particular scene happening and all of that. But to be very honest, it challenges you to be as real as possible. Because I do remember the scene that we were shooting in the field where, I threw up and that's the first sign that, she might be pregnant kind of thing. And Michael wanted me to trick all the other women in the field, and, he didn't warn them that I was going to go to the site and pretend like I was going to throw up. And I automatically felt this amazing amount of pressure on me to do it as naturalistically as possible so that the women wouldn't burst out laughing on camera. So I guess it is a challenge, but it's very interesting to play it that way as well. It makes you explore a more real side of you, rather than when you have a script, all the other actors are going to respond a certain way. This one is far more challenging.
And at a very banal level as well, things like, the doctors, the real doctor, or the workers in the hotel, that makes it, means they are, just being themselves. They're doing what they always do. So, it means you don't really have to tell them what to do. But, it's always a bad thing if you tell someone to, tell a non-actor what to do. It's obviously horrible because they become very self-conscious. Yeah. But if they're just being themselves, then it means your film has more texture to it, it's more accurate, but also they're doing all the work for you. So I have to wonder, what does the doctor say in these situations? He just does what he always does.
Well, and I would think directorially, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is what they normally do. So as a director, your job is to kind of facilitate an environment in which they feel comfortable enough to just behave.
Exactly. Basically, it's a question of being as small as possible and as quiet as possible, and that's how we film. It's on set. There's often only 3 or 4 people around the camera. And we don't shout action, we don't shout cut, and we have little radio mics, and we try and keep it as so that we're as discreet as possible. They feel as relaxed as possible.
Yeah, not having action cut, I found myself breathing less on this film because I don't know what it is about the word action. It just kind of, I don't know, it makes you breathe a bit, But it's this pressure that comes on you. But when you're continuously acting and you're acting with people who are not used to hearing words like action and cut, it becomes more of this is what I do every day. I wake up in the morning and I milk the cows and I take my, brothers and sisters to school. So it feels more like this is your actual life.
Right. Freida, you've worked with so many tremendous directors. I mean, Danny Boyle and Schnabel and Woody Allen, and I'm wondering what do you learn something from each of them, and what are the most valuable things you took away from your experience with Michael?
Oh yeah, I learned that they're all different and they all have different styles of learning. So you can't really base your next film on your previous director's style of working. And that is what is amazing because you're constantly growing with every project and learning to be more adjusting to everyone's style of working. I mean, I don't think Danny and Woody would ever work in the same fashion, neither would Julian and Michael. So it's amazing that you learn all these lessons from your previous films, but there's always more to learn. And guess, being with someone as flexible as Michael, who lets you kind of improv on set and explore your own character and take it forward, and at the same time there to guide you in case you're going too far or too little. I think that's great, and gives you confidence, actually, knowing that a director like Michael will trust you with a kind of an improv situation. I think it gives you a lot of confidence for your next film.
It occurs to me that we always talk about our great actors and the idea of our great actors being chameleons. But Michael, you strike me as a chameleon as a director. I mean, you tackle such different subjects on each film. Is that a conscious choice for you?
Only in the sense that I'm looking for something interesting to do. When I think like any director, when you think about what you want to do next, you're looking for something interesting. And most films I do are things that we sort of started from an idea and developed. So I guess it just seems natural to me that if you say you've been doing a film which is a period drama, then the one thing you don't want to do is another period drama. So it's a sort of reaction to the last thing you've done. I think often it would be hard to find something interesting if it felt like you'd already just made a version of that film. So in that sense, I'm aware that happens, but it's not a sort of policy of this time we must look for this because it's different. It's just that you come across something, whether someone suggests it to you or you come across the idea yourself. And it doesn't really matter why it's interesting. The important thing is it